Hey, what's up guys, it's Jay. I wanted to give you guys a first impression of the new Retroid Pocket Mini. I just got this in as of this recording. Retroid had released a new updated version of their 2S Pocket, which is this is the Mini. And I got in the all black version just because I noticed that their colors on the website are not exactly accurate to what I've seen in real life photos. So, which is why I opted for the black. But you guys can see this panel is all glass right here. One piece of glass, with cutouts for the buttons, D-pad, joysticks, and the home and the back buttons. You get the two speaker grills here, and then your start and select buttons there at the top. So it's quite nice. You get this nice bezel-less display, this 3.7-inch AMOLED display, which crazy. The blacks are nice. When I first unboxed this and turned it on, I was like, man, this thing it's amazing. Just first impressions, just the display just looks so crisp and clean. It goes super bright, super dim as well. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It just looks like a great screen. Now, let's talk about the buttons and stuff like that. So you got your D-pad, pretty clicky, pretty tactile. So it's a memory connection, nothing too crazy. Feels pretty nice, decently sized. I'll have some devices to compare it to in a second, but let's go over the button here. So you got the face button, which is more of a click, has quite a bit of click there. If you guys can pick up the sound there. Hopefully capturing that a little bit, but definitely can feel it. It's not really, it doesn't feel like it feels more of a switch than a memory connection, which I don't know why they picked this over membrane, but if you might get annoyed that it's a switch, but I find it to be okay. You can see that the resivity of it's coming out, the buttons are coming out pretty high actually. For this kind of device, I was hoping it to be a little bit more closer to the device itself, but however, you can see that the joysticks are pretty low, which I do like. That means it keeps it pocketable and compact as much as possible. Now, also you have your back button, your speaker here, and your home button and another speaker. So I haven't set this up yet. I will soon. The triggers feel pretty nice and tight. The spring is really good actually. It's really tight because, yeah, I'll show you guys in a second why this is good. R1, L1, nice tactical click there. Yeah, your volume up and down. Feels really nice. It's really flushed in pretty much with the device. Hopefully I can get like a view of it to show you guys there. But it's quite nice. The power button's the same. As you guys will notice that you have these silver screws, which I'm not a fan of. I wish they just had them black screws or something. Maybe I can find some replacement and just use that because, with the device being black, it kind of just makes this contrast and I don't know, a little bit ugly, I guess, if you will. You have your ventilation here for your exhaust. For the fan here, you got your fan in the back as well, which flip to the back here real quick. So you got the Retroid Pocket embossed logo here, and then you got the nice ventilation for the fan. You got also some pretty deep grooves for the, for your hands to hold. So that's also quite nice. I do like that. It feels pretty nice to kind of have that at least because otherwise it'd be just a flat device and yeah, it'd be kind of annoying to hold. Now, going to the bottom, you have your SD card slot, TF card. So nice in there. And this is fine, whatever. Kind of floppy, which is fine as long as it works. I'm okay with that. You got your 3.5 millimeter headphone jack there. You also have your USB-C, which is also video out. However, I don't think it does charge your device, which is, okay. For $200, right, I probably have to be a little bit more picky. Those are one of the things I just can think off the top of my head. It's like, well, can you really charge and do everything in one device? Especially when you're paying this kind of price for, a retro handheld device. Okay, guys, so I'm back. I set up everything. I basically copied my settings. I took my SD card actually from the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. I haven't used this in a while actually since I got my Odin 2. basically been maining the Odin 2, and that kind of plays pretty much everything this can play, and then plus Nintendo Switch stuff. But ever since I got a couple more devices that were smaller, like the RG35XX SP, this one, I've been playing more GBA games on this guy. And then, I still have my Miyoo Mini Plus there. And I also have the RG40XXH device as well. So I got quite a bit of devices now, kind of been testing around and playing with them. And I think this guy right here, this Retroid Pocket Mini, might be the best one out of all of these smaller devices here. The Odin 2 has its own, category because it's such a bigger device. It's pretty much in a different, place in itself. But after giving you guys a tour, I want to give you guys comparisons of each device. I feel like that's probably the best way to give impressions of a device physically speaking. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start with the Miyoo Mini Plus. This is a 3.5-inch LCD display. It's quite small, quite compact, and it's not that powerful. It can play up to like PS1 games really, and that's about it. But it's a nice small handheld, and you're able to get a lot of gaming done in such a small package. And so when you compare it side by side, right, you'll see that the Retroid Pocket Mini is a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, but it's still quite small considering other devices here. It's about the same size, especially when you compare it to especially when compared to the 40XXH. This device, it's bigger, right? About the same width, actually, when you look at it here. And then thickness-wise, right? Okay, it's a little bit thicker because of these, these grooves here. I mean, these bumps allow it to, hold the device much better, which I prefer just by using it in the last 30 minutes or so. It's a lot better to hold than the 40XXH, but given that this is like over twice the price of this 40XXH here, so yeah, it's size-wise about the same. Look at that. Now take a look at the joysticks. You can see the joysticks definitely stick out more on the Ambernic versus the Retroid, and don't forget that the Retroid is using magnetic Hall effect joysticks, and these ones are kind of like that convex joysticks, which basically means it's kind of like a dome shape. These are kind of the opposite. It has a convex shape there, so a little bit different. I prefer these actually than over these ones, and the travel is quite small on these guys versus this one, quite larger, goes back and forth pretty big. Yeah, so another big difference I noticed was the D-pad, right? The D-pad is actually thicker. It's smaller, but it's thicker. You can see that, it's a little bit smaller, it looks like, but you might be able to tell that there's quite a bit of more of a deeper groove here to kind of allow a better experience just holding the device. This one's a little bit tougher to press, and then at the same time, it just doesn't feel as good to hold when you're playing a game like this, right? You kind of lay your thumb rest all over the D-pad here. It's quite nice versus the 40XXH. A little bit harder to do so. You can kind of do it, but you see the D-pad is quite thin, so it's a little bit harder to kind of just rest your thumb. And because everything's quite flat, I think that's probably the biggest thing. That doesn't have much. It's not as flat. It has actually has a more of a slope there. So I think that's the biggest thing. Now, one thing I wanted to point out with the buttons on the Mini is that, well, unfortunately, I do also have the same problem where it seems to be scratching the innards of the housing here. So you'll see, hopefully the camera can capture it, but you see some white stuff here, a little bit of dust or maybe some scratching. I don't know what it is. I haven't taken apart the device, and obviously the major difference, which I didn't point out at the beginning, was that the XH here is a 4-inch device, and then the Mini is a 3.7-inch device. You can see the difference there. I mean, it's quite a bit of a difference. It's much taller and a little bit wider in terms of the screen. Now, is that gonna make a difference day to day? I'm not sure. Ever since I've been using the 40XXH, I've been using it a little bit just to play here and there. But I think the biggest thing for me, even though the screen is bigger, is there isn't any grips on the back. It's really just, you know, flat. It's hard to hold. And I kind of felt the same way with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. Same thing, right? It's completely flat in the back as for the stack triggers there. You know, you have the R1, R2, but those are nice. It's just that otherwise it's kind of hard to just hold the device over long periods of time, which I've mentioned before in my previous video, and I'll link it down below the like button. But it's just hard to hold without any kind of support here for longer than like an hour, I would say, if that. Depending on how, you know, if you have something to hold, put your elbows on, I think that's the biggest thing. It kind of makes it hard to, you know, game for a long time, which is why I opted out to swap the 4 Pro with the Odin 2. Basically, this has become my main kind of like retro gaming device. For anything switched below, I just play with this. Anything above that, I play with my Steam Deck, or I just play on my PC. That's really it. Now, sometimes I will take the 35XSP if I'm, you know, I want to go somewhere. I don't want to bring big devices, and this is what I would bring. But again, this one I mentioned that the buttons are a little bit too stiff. Even now, they're still a little bit stiff. In particular, the D-pad is actually more annoying than the buttons, even though they're a little bit clicky here. I don't mind that they're clicky. It's just that, you know, this one is just really hard to get used to the low travel, and it's just like really stiff buttons here. But I do like that its form factor is really small. But when you compare it to the Mini, it's like, man, well, now this is the device I've been waiting for, really. I mean, it's a little bit, it's not as thick, right? It's a little bit wider, but it's a little bit thicker. Sorry. The width is about the same actually when you fold out the device, right? And the screen size is a little bit bigger actually on the Mini than the 35XSP. But, you know, I'm willing to trade that off for a, you know, much better gaming experience just in general, right? You have these ridges here to kind of give you a better grip. You don't even need to attach a grip anymore. You just play it like this, and it just feels really nice to kind of have this type of grip. It's really deep, and then it's really bulging out, which, you know, good or bad, right? It doesn't fit in the pocket as well. I've just tried it with my shorts, but, you know, it's fine, honestly. And I usually carry a sling bag, so this is totally fine to kind of just use it like this. And it kind of fits in the same category as my 4 Pro here. So all that being said, right? Well, so what does this mean, right? So all these devices that I have here, like, how does this stack up in terms of just the, you know, just the hardware itself? So this has an AMOLED display. It's gonna just beat out every single device here in terms of the contrast. The you know, the inky blacks is just gonna be amazing. The color is gonna be amazing. I would say it's on par with the Odin 2. Pretty much like in terms of just, you know, this detail clarity, all that stuff, it's pretty much neck and neck in my opinion. Now, the thing is now it's like, oh man, this might, the reason why I picked up the Mini and the 5 is because, man, I'm thinking, okay, what if there's a way to get all the games I can play on the Odin 2, but on 2 smaller devices? You know, because this one is big. So the Odin 2 probably still is the best device overall in terms of just retro gaming, but I think having a much smaller device just to bring with you on the go, and it's lighter, this might be it, right? Or the 5 that's gonna come out soon. And that one, when I get it in, I'm gonna just try and see, okay, can I replace the Odin 2 completely with, you know, the Mini and the 5, and just switch between the two and have a very similar experience, high premium AMOLED experience, because that's the thing with the Odin 2. You know, I wish I had as an AMOLED screen. You know, everything else about it, it's just great. You know, extra buttons on the back. The triggers are pretty much actually, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. And I know it's a little bit of a, you know, back and forth here, but the triggers actually are very similar. So it's like, you know, AIN and Retroid like the same company or something, or they use the same materials. But look at it, the same buttons. They look exactly the same layout. Look at it. Look, even the bumps here, right? The grips are almost exactly the same. I was gonna say the ventilation is the same, but not really. But you can, it's almost the same. But yeah, the triggers are similar. The buttons are similar. The volume buttons are pretty similar too, actually. So yeah, I mean, and even down to the SD card, right? It's like, oh man, same font almost too. Yeah, so it's fine that they're similar designs. It's just this is a great design to copy. If you're gonna copy a design, copy the Odin 2 design. And even though Retroid is supposed to be known, this is supposed to be like the successor, right, to the 2S. I hope that it isn't, because, well, I mean, this kind of makes it modern looking, which is nice. Don't get me wrong, it's super nice, but it's also nice to have a cheaper alternative that's cool looking, something like the 40XSH or the 2S, and it looks pretty unique. But this, it doesn't look as unique anymore. And, you try to trade all that for like modern, kind of like modern amenities, nicer gaming, AMOLED screen, I mean, nice grips, like triggers. And, this is such an upgrade in almost every way. It's kind of crazy. But let me boot up a game real quick. But while we do that, one thing I did want to mention, right, is I noticed that the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, when it first came out, one of the issues that it had with was with the springs here for the trigger, R2 and L2. It wasn't, I guess the spring would come off and people had to like open it up and replace it. But fortunately mine didn't have that problem. It still hasn't had an issue. But I will say that the springs are a little bit weak. Just like ever since I got the Odin 2, ever since I got the Odin 2, I noticed, man, like the springs are much tighter, much stronger springs that they used here versus the 4 Pro. It's like pretty weak, I'd say. Not that it's bad, right? It still functions. It's just that it's a little bit weak. It's a little bit easier to kind of actuate the button here versus the Mini. They resolved that, right? Now it's just like this nice tight feel, right? It springs back really quick, and you're able to just use it as needed. You kind of have to think about it. Okay, well, how much does it cost and all this stuff? And so the Mini cost $200, and so did the 4 Pro, so it's pretty much the same price. Actually, same with the 5. It's about the same price. So I would say that in terms of upgrades, right, you're getting a pretty big upgrade from the 4 Pro or the 4, for that matter. But if you're coming from like a 2S, right, if you have a 2S now and you're thinking, should I upgrade to this? It's a little bit harder because, well, this is like double the price, right? So you're getting to this kind of territory, but you're getting a lot more gaming in. Now, this is a 4:3 screen, so although you can play Switch games, it's not going to look that great because this is a 4:3 screen. But this is great for games like PS2 games, GameCube, Wii, and yeah, I mean, it looks really awesome right now, and it looks like I'm just playing a normal PS2 game without any widescreen hacks, which you can use, which I do use on my Odin 2. This is my saved game file that I've synced over, but yeah, I mean, you can do a lot with this. So one thing I do want to point out, right, is you see I'm playing it right now, that even though the joystick is at the bottom, this is great for retro gaming, to be honest, but if you want to do PS2, it's still good enough, because the reason why is because the device is so small, you're able to kind of just put your thumb really quickly here. You don't have to worry about it, versus like a bigger device, right? You're gonna have a harder time, like with the Odin 2, right? Luckily, the Odin 2, the joystick's up here, but if it was down here, it'd be kind of hard to just like do it, especially like even the face buttons is a little bit even harder, I think, than this side, because I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, but I think just doing this is like really awkward. You have to travel so far down here for either side if this was this was swapped over. But in this case, it's like, yeah, you can't do this with Kingdom Hearts or something. You got to use the joystick here. But the travel is so small, you're not really going to notice it. And so far, it feels fine. It doesn't feel like a huge deal here. I did forget to mention that there are, this is Android 10, and I wish it did have Android 13 out of the box, but apparently Retroid is trying to, they're going to actually release Android 13 on this device, hopefully soon, hopefully next month, and I'll be able to test that out. But for now, it is Android 10, so you do miss the ability to use certain apps and I'm hoping to, get that available so I can use some of the apps I normally use. But for the most part, I'm able to just load in and use what I need to. So I'm gonna try Zoning Enders right now just to give you guys an idea of what to expect. So performance on Kingdom Hearts 2 seemed to be fine. It does show the FPS up here, but I don't know why it's really tiny on the setup here. So I'll have to figure that out, but it is running pretty much 60 frames per second for the most part. You did see the little dip right there when it loaded in, but outside of that, I don't think you'll notice any kind of huge problems. Okay, so yeah, there you go. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of performance there, but it does play pretty good. Didn't notice any lag there just now, and yeah, I mean, even though I died, but I digress. So yeah, you can see that the game runs pretty well. And one of the other things with AMOLED, right, you get this nice inky black. So I set up this theme for ESDE where it takes advantage of the AMOLED screen, so you can get a full dark screen here. You're able to just, man, look how nice this looks. Just gaming on this thing is just, man. Compare that to, say, I don't know, let's bring up the Retroid Pocket 2, or sorry, let's bring up the Odin 2 here. Let's go to PlayStation 2, right? Same kind of thing. I mean, it looks good, but it's not the same, right? So that was my first impressions of the Retroid Pocket Mini. I wanted to give you guys just an overview and kind of comparison of different devices. And what I'm thinking so far, I'm gonna be playing and testing this more. And so I'm gonna have a full review soon. And yeah, look out for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. But yeah, if that, I will see you guys next time. Peace.